Welcome to the Filmcast review of Nosferatu. I'm going to read the plot summary for this movie from the internet. In the 1830s, estate agent Thomas Hutter travels to Transylvania for a fateful meeting with Count Orlok, a prospective client. In his absence, Hutter's new bride, Ellen, is left under the care of their friends, Friedrich and Anna Harding. Plagued by horrific visions and an increasing sense of dread, Ellen soon encounters an evil force that's far beyond her control. End quote. Obviously, here on the Filmcast, we're pretty big fans of Robert Eggers. No one's doing it like this guy. No one is making movies as bold, as original, as visually striking as what this man is doing right now. All that said, this is his latest, probably in my estimation, one of his more ambitious works. I mean, The Northman is also pretty ambitious as well.
Every one of them is kind of ambitious in their own way, which is why I love this guy. Yeah,
indeed. All that said, Devindra Hardwar, what did you think of Nosferatu?
I loved it. I love it. And this kind of goes back to, I've always loved the sort of like gothic-y style of the Nosferatu story. So I'm talking about the Murnau original and what's his face? Famous documentarian. There was the 70s one as well. I love this story. I think the Dracula story, this is like Nosferatu was always sort of like a ripoff of the Bram Stoker thing, right? It was like unlicensed IP use of a vampire story. But I think what Robert Eggers does here looks tremendous. There's a lot of care involved here. This is a long movie, but it's 2 hours and 13 minutes long. But I couldn't help but be like mesmerized by every single shot, every single setup, and just the kind of weight he puts on these characters and kind of every situation. It's horrific when it needs to be. It's kind of like weirdly sexy when it needs to be as well, which is a core part of this story. I just think he's balancing so many things here. So I loved it. I love seeing him in full-on gothic mode, and I cannot wait to see what he does next. Also, some tremendous performances too. Like, again, great year for Nicholas Hoult, but Lily Rose Depp really, really surprised me. I was really looking forward to seeing what Emma Corrin was going to be doing, because I really like her in general. She was great in the Deadpool movie. Loved her in Murder at the End of the World, but Lily Rose Depp, did not expect her to be as tremendous as she is in this one. And
it's a really brave performance.
Yeah,
she really puts it all out there, and I really deeply admire what she was able to accomplish in this movie. So anyway, sounds like Devindra Hardwar is a fan. I'm really curious, Jeff Kanata, what did you think of Nosferatu?
Well, Dave, I must admit that for me it no.
Keep going.
That is my. I talk for a living, and this is now what I'll do forever. Yeah.
I'd love the voice was great. I guess you could say what I thought of Nosferatu. It's best summed up
in the form
of a limerick. A harrowing, grim worldview is something I tend to eschew. I expected a no, but Victorian snow turned this into yes, Ferratu.
Wow. That's really a journey, Jeff. I was expecting you to hate it from the beginning.
I was also expecting myself to hate it. I loved this. I loved this movie. Not usually my jam, this kind of gruesome, upsetting, intentionally upsetting trip into madness. And I had the strangest experience watching this, which is the setting transported me. The way he expresses place in this movie is exquisite. I just cannot. I want to be there. I like the streets, the cobblestones, the people, the costuming, the interiors, the exteriors, the weather, the grand shots of the city. This is Germany, not England, right? But it feels Dickinsonian. It has so much texture and it feels like a lived place, but also a fairy tale at the same time. It is it's like the best of what Tim Burton can do, or there's very few directors that like deliver a stylized place that also feels lived in and inhabited and palpable. And I found myself wanting to go to there. Like it's a horrible existence
Before the plague.
before the plague. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. Keep the plague, please. But I loved every moment of feeling this world. And the story itself is pretty cool. I mean, I love the era of Willem Dafoe's career we're in now.
Yeah.
Like, if Willem Dafoe says yes to a movie, just go see that movie. Just go see that movie. If he decided to spend his precious time being in this movie at this point in his career, it's going to be good. It's going to be, and he's going to be good, and it's going to be interesting, and he's probably going to be a real weirdo in it, and it's great. Can we, guys? Can we please bring back the coats with the little half cape? Can we do that?
You could do that right now, Jeff.
Can you get those now? I don't know where you get those.
Yeah.
I want a cloak that has a tiny half cape. That's what I want to wear all the time. Give me that. Why did we get away from that? That's brilliant. Little half cape like the story of this movie is 100% secondary to me than the trappings of the world. And I was utterly invested in just being there, which is such not a usual filmic experience for me. But man, I loved the way this movie's shot, the look and feel of that universe, and the way people talk to each other, the way, having Aaron Taylor Johnson like just smoking and being, that guy. I'm losing my ability to speak. I loved this. I had a great time with this movie, and it has very little to do with what actually happens, which is also interesting.
You know what's
wild? Intoxicating vibe is what I'll say.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what's wild, guys, is that Alessandro Nivola and Aaron Taylor
back to him.
And Aaron Taylor Johnson both had both were in one of the worst movies of the year, and then 1 week later we're in another movie that's arguably one of the best movies of the year. And they contain multitudes. They're two different films for those two people. Right?
Yeah.
The movie they're both in, however, was Kraven the Hunter.
I mean, you can put Nicholas Hoult in that category, even though it wasn't a week ago. It was a week ago we talked about it.
It was a week ago it came out of Jury number 2, HBO Max.
Yeah.
Weird how polarizing that one has been, I have to say. Like, I think, again, as Devindra pointed out during the review, like it has been critically acclaimed. People, it's number 1 movie on Max right now. People really like it, and also some people really, really hate that movie. Anyway, what are you gonna do? Movies. Humanity's a beautiful tapestry.
What are you gonna do? Movies.
So I'll just bring up 2 things about this movie that I wanted to highlight again, just to reiterate what I already said when Devindra was talking about Lily Rose Depp. I just think not a performance I had ever seen from her before prior to now, and I've watched her in a few things, and but this is really something where she really does commit to this, and probably this movie I think expects more from her than any other character, and I think she nailed it. The other thing is, you guys have talked about the look of the movie. I think it is really beautiful. Every single camera movement feels so deliberate in Robert Eggers movies, and the camera is almost like a character itself, right? It's
meticulously framing
taking
everything.
You on there is a lot of camera movement in this movie. Like there's like a lot of like panning from like left to right, right to left, and it's just like it's taking you on this journey of revealing what the space is like, what the characters are experiencing and seeing. And I just think, I've seen all of Eggers' movies, and the camera work in this one is my favorite, just because it just feels like every single shot is so purposeful. So those are
what he does with shadow is pretty awesome too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's practically black and white at times too. Like
Yeah.
occasionally you see hints of color, but it is so gray and white. Yeah,
I believe this movie was shot on 35 millimeter film, actually, but in 1.66 by 1 aspect ratio, which feels a little bit. It's not like 4 by 3, but it feels a little bit more old school. Yeah. Jeff, can I what are you going to say?
I would say the only visual thing that I question is, and maybe this is a proximity to having watched another movie I talked about this episode, but I feel like Bill Skarsgård in this movie looks a lot like Dr. Robotnik.
I mean,
a little too much like Dr. Robotnik for my taste, is what I'm saying. He's
poor Bill Skarsgård.
He's supposed to be scary, but he looks like Dr. Eggman, you know?
Wow.
The mustache.
They both do have intentions of taking over the world, basically.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
a lot more similarities than not.
Enormous mustache, bald pate, mostly, and
an unhealthy obsession with ruling the world.
Yeah, a little pasty,
Yeah. Both played by Jim Carrey. No, that doesn't make any sense. I took it too far. Okay. Anyway,
they both hate hedgehogs. I don't know.
Yeah,
I like this movie. The story is relatively simple, but the thing you brought up, Jeff, was like the sense of place. You're in many different locations, and every location has like a completely different feel from where we're in. Like, I think it takes place in Germany, right? It's weird that everyone speaks English, but like,
it's Germany.
There's parts of Germany when you're in the city, and then you're in these like tiny village hut, and then you're in this castle. You're in all these different places
outside of Germany. That's why it's supposed to be weird, because they don't speak that language, right? Too. So
right. So every single location has its own personality, and it just is like, oh wow, you really feel like you're discovering something about the universe when you're watching a movie like this. So
I would describe it as Victorian, but that doesn't make any sense because
exactly. I was about to say Victorian. I'm like, no, it takes place in Germany. So,
just anyway. It's still very Gothic. Like there's a beautiful Gothic, beauty to this. But to what you're saying, Jeff, like I think that is Robert Eggers' magic. Is that
I agree.
Captures a sense of space and place in all of his films. The thing that was remarkable to me about The Witch is I grew up in New England. So I spent a lot of time thinking about like, man, what would life be like for people here? Like just living in the woods, there's, you don't know what's in the woods. There's weird spiritual things they may be afraid of. And I thought The Witch captured that, but The Lighthouse also did.
I mean, The Lighthouse is about a place, right?
The Lighthouse is about a place, but to be cramped and stuck in a place with another dude. The Northman is very much like the Viking life, so he is, he's always transportive, even if like, the plot of what happens in his stuff isn't always as interesting, I'd say.
All right.
So you sounds like you're less enthusiastic, Dave.
No, maybe a little bit less.
Love. It's what it sounds like.
I would say I really liked it. I really liked it. But why don't we talk about spoilers? Because maybe like we can unpack, kind of how the story unfolded and whether that played into. Because it sounds like you didn't really care about the story. You were just there for the vibes, right?
Which is so unlike me. That's why it's such a strange experience for me. Is that the vibes were so powerful that it didn't matter anything else. And honestly, I would put this above The Northman or The Lighthouse for me. I think. It's one of my favorite of his movies, for sure. Like top tier.
Yeah, I think I might as well. Anyway, I agree. The craft is so strong in this one. It's worth watching for that alone. Let's get to spoilers for Nosferatu starting right now. All right, let's talk about spoilers for Nosferatu. So I have to say, I really love Willem Dafoe in this movie, but like at times I was wondering what kind of movie I was watching, because Willem Dafoe, in my opinion, brings the comic relief to this film. Like, my audience was like laughing at a lot of stuff that Willem Dafoe was doing because it feels really over the top and kind of almost arch in this film.
I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. It just I enjoyed it as well, but it just felt like so different than anything else. That like there was no humor at all in this film before Willem Dafoe showed up. Right. And then Willem Dafoe shows up, and he's like doing an amazing job. It was super over the top performance, but it's just like, oh, that's kind of like interesting. Weird. It's weird. It's not like bad.
It's a
just
weird vibe shift.
Yeah,
like the
weird
movie
vibe
kind of shifts a little there. Yeah,
weird vibe shift. But I had a blast, and he obviously gets to say the title of the movie, and it's like the way he says it is still like ringing in my mind.
So
it's in the
great.
trailer, but it's
Yeah.
good.
He's like,
it's good stuff.
The vampire, Nosferatu. It's just like, ooh,
Yeah.
like, yeah, you get
Yes.
chills. You get chills.
I was thinking of the Werner Herzog version of Nosferatu, and that I remember seeing that as a kid, and just like this feels as transformative as this would be, as that movie was for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dude, the feeding on the chest, into the heart,
into the heart
instead of the neck is so disturbing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The old stories were kind of like that. Like this, even before Nosferatu, there were other stories, and it's good stuff. It's just like it's disturbing, but also like in a way, I see it described as like an empowering thing for the lead too, for Lily Rose Depp's character. And it's kind of like she is the one who has to save the day. It's the ultimate sacrifice to do that. But
structurally, it's an odd movie because it starts as Nicholas Holt's story, and then he gets completely sidelined.
Yeah.
Like for large stretch of the end of the movie, he's just unimportant,
right?
Completely unimportant.
Yeah, that was a little odd to me. A little odd to me. I wasn't sure, what was the intention there?
They hand the movie off. Which is
it's kind of a back and forth at times, right? Because we start with the Lily Rose Depp, like her experiencing the call of Nosferatu early on, and then we see her with this guy, and we're like, okay, what's up with this? I love that early scene with his boss. Is something
so great.
So it was like something's off with this guy, huh? Like he's just a little weird. Like that performance specifically is like unhinged, but like trying to hold
McBurney
on to your human skin.
I do wish we had a little bit more transition with Simon McBurney from oh, I'm running a real estate company to like I'm literally in a pagan,
Oh, he was already there.
Spell circle, like
he was already there. Like he just had the human suit on, or the
exactly.
suit on.
He was
I understand that, but I think like, but then like I guess he just gave up his business at some point.
He did what he needed to do.
No, I know, I get it, but it's like, I wish there had been like we'd seen that because literally we see him, he's in a suit, and then the next time we see him, he's already kind of in the state of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's an awesome reveal where he's just like sitting naked in that.
Yeah, that was very good.
And you're just like, oh, okay, all right. But I loved his office. I mean, it's literally every location I love. But his office with like things just bursting out of every container they could stuff them into. Just so great.
I guess the story has to be structured this way, Jeff, right? To some degree, because you have to. In order to tell this particular story, you have to tell the story of Nicholas Holt's character going to see Nosferatu, and
because a young girl would not be.
That would not make any sense. So you'd have to tell it to like you're following this character too, but then it makes you feel like, oh, Nicholas Holt is the audience surrogate, but that's actually not really the case.
He kind of is because he has no clue what's happening. Whereas Lily Rose Depp's character is like,
she's been there.
I'm in some stuff. Like I've experienced this thing.
Wait till you meet my ex.
Can I just say the thing that's most relatable about this movie is Aaron Taylor Johnson inviting this girl in, and then it being a massive pain in the ass for his life.
Yes.
Like, can you imagine?
You can stay here.
You're just trying to be nice. This is why it just doesn't pay to be nice, people, because you never know if the person you're letting be your roommate is going to have an ancient curse.
Bride of Nosferatu.
It's the bride of Nosferatu, which is going to cause
that
some
should
problems
be
for
on your friend agreement. You know, are you the bride of Nosferatu? Before you
just a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Do you have any food allergies?
Yeah, food allergies.
Are you the bride
of Nosferatu? Here are the chores, and also, are you the bride of Nosferatu?
Wow, with the chores immediately. Wow, you're in a tight ship, Dave.
I loved that whole first section so much, where he arrives and Nosferatu is like kind of being cool to him, but also it's incredibly creepy and weird. And he's being a house guest for this creepy old dude who just like,
I have a few favors that I need for you to do.
And he's just like trying to be like a good house guest to this guy. And he's like, well, I kind of want to leave. And he's like,
No, you can't leave.
you know, it's such a great sequence, the whole thing. And then he like opens the thing and the guy's in there like, ah,
Yeah.
so great.
The lighting in Transylvania was very. It looks like it's all natural lighting. It looks like they used actual candles to light that stuff, which is very difficult to do.
With film.
Maybe they didn't. Maybe they had supplementary, but like it looked like natural lighting, which is incredible. Yeah. Anyway,
I am convinced that shadow stuff is practical too, even though it may very well be CG. But like the shadow stuff is so rad, and I feel like he went through the effort of literally doing it in camera. You know,
I mean, I love when it goes a little crazy too, like the hand over the German city, which very feels evocative of Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, which had a lot of really cool in-camera effects and stuff. But that's another great movie.
That one I don't think was in camera, Jeff. That one was.
Yeah, that one probably
the city exists.
It looked cool. It looked cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, the one where across the room where he's like unlocking the door with a shadow and all that stuff. I don't know. That's probably all a visual effect, but I like to think that he really did it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that one of the strong components of Robert Eggers movies in general is that you don't feel like there's a lot of CG. Again, I know visual effects artists are like extremely talented. And actually, in my mind, I'm trying to pay them a compliment where like you don't notice the CG. Like that's when it's operating at the highest level. And in general, that's how I feel about Eggers films. I feel like there's very little CG in them, even though there definitely is. And that's one of the strengths of his work. So
I feel like this is a movie that I would recommend to my friends who love tabletop role-playing games.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like it gives you a sense of being in a world. And, you know, if you're into horror, it's a no-brainer. But even if you're into just like fantasy role-playing games.
It's very fantasy.
Yeah. It just, you know, the doctor whose like prescription is, we'll just bleed her more or whatever, you know, it's this world that everybody's wearing cool stuff and there's cool gadgets and fun, you know, it's so stylized and awesome and consistent. And it makes me go, oh, I want to roll up a character in this universe. You know, I want to play in this playground. So that's one of the reasons I really loved it.
Any other thoughts on Nosferatu? I mean, the ending I thought was fairly effective, right?
Beautiful final shot too.
Yeah,
like, just
incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
But this idea basically at the end that she is, I guess, sacrificing herself, right? And the moment when she and Nicholas Hoult say goodbye to each other, you know, I was a little bit moved by that because the thing is, you as the audience think, oh, this might be the last time they ever see each other, but then theoretically, you as the audience, you don't know why that's the case, right? You don't know why that's the case.
And I feel a little sad for his character because the thing about Nicholas Holt's character is he's just a little bit of a dum-dum.
Yeah,
this entire time, like he's just a little hapless and oblivious to like what is happening. And meanwhile, his wife is like, "Oh, I see the only way to break this curse is I got to sacrifice myself. So I'm going to arrange for you to go on this mission and feel like you're a big man that's going to stop this thing." It's like, no, I gotta do this thing. You know, I just gotta end this whole plague and everything.
It really is the girl that, you know, she wants to settle down and find a nice guy.
Yeah.
She's got the past where she was with the bad boy, you know, but I'm trying to put that behind me.
Yeah. I was really impressed because they think they find Nosferatu, but it's actually Simon McBurney's character there, right?
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, you're vampires in another castle. Yeah.
I did, something we haven't really talked about in this movie is the use of fire in the film. Like, when they set the thing on fire, it looks like they actually set it on fire again.
Oh, dude,
it does not look like CG fire.
Like,
right?
It looks like he starts the fire.
Yeah, he starts the fire.
Let the actor start the fire.
Yeah,
is he sprayed down like fire retardant or something? I don't know. I don't know.
Hope so. He must.
The other thing that I thought was cool is I think, you know, you guys can correct me if I'm forgetting something, but we've seen, you know, countless vampire movies and vampire adjacent where you drive a stake through the heart, right? Stake through the heart, stake through the heart. I don't know if I've ever seen one where we use a mallet to drive the set.
I've seen the mallet.
Yeah, the
I
mallet.
forget
Yeah,
where.
the mallet's
Yeah.
been a thing.
Love the
but
mallet.
yeah.
Love the mallet.
Love the mallet. Well, they're really old school. That's what's going on here. I can't stop thinking about Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, by the way. Not only, like, yeah, you invited the Bride of Nosferatu into your home and, invited certain doom onto your family, but his poor daughters.
Yeah.
Like, this movie is just like, oh, look at these cute, adorable children.
Yeah.
It's not going to end well for them.
Oh,
And
that
we're
scene
just kind
where-
of sitting and waiting for them to be.
That might be
yeah.
the most disturbing scene in the entire movie,
Yes.
where he like
Yes.
feeding on the daughter, and he like tosses
Drops
her
it.
body away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pretty
And
rough.
his whole thing where he's just like, well, I guess I cannot leave my family. Like him just basically, sacrificing himself to
Yeah.
just stay with his family. It's
Rough.
it's rough. It's
And
compelling.
that's
'cause,
why
yeah,
you never offer your friends a place to stay.
never, never, not even one night.
no good deed goes unpunished.
Absolutely. Anyway, any other thoughts on Nosferatu? I think we're all fans of the movie. So
It's just Robert Eggers, just like
So
everyone out of the park. I'm like, what will this guy do next? Like, really, the sort of like genre world is his oyster. And I'm just like fascinated by what drives him. I want to hear, I haven't like seen many interviews with him, but I really want to know like what he's thinking, what he's interested in, how he like thinks of conceiving these worlds. Cause he is going down. It's like one of our most fascinating genre directors at this point.
Totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
I literally don't know how he keeps getting money to make things.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that he does. But none of his movies are like massive
I
financial
think
hits.
this one has the potential to do really well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's relative, right?
Yeah,
Really well. It's not going to do Sonic 3 numbers, but I think this one feels a little bit more potentially mainstream horror movie than certainly The Northman or
Northman could be sold as like an action movie. And Northman was like straight up an action movie that got a little weird.
Yeah.
Whereas this one is like a really slow, drawn out gothic thriller at times, and gothic horror, which is not what people are usually up for on Christmas. I feel like people going to see this. It's like when we talked about, what was the movie about Hollywood, Babylon? Like the day after Christmas, I went to see Babylon first thing. Like a bunch, like a mom and her entire family went to see it. First thing in that movie is like looking at an elephant shitting on the camera. This movie's gonna be a wild surprise, I think, for a lot of people.
This has to be one of the most chaotic Christmas release schedules ever. So basically, this Christmas you can choose between Nosferatu, Mufasa, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Baby
Brutalist?
Girl.
The Brutalist, maybe in some markets,
and a complete unknown. It's like, wow, like this is a really diverse slate of movies to be able to watch.
Baby Girl and Nosferatu feel like very odd Christmas Day releases, but what are you gonna do?
very, very. I don't know. There's some sort of thread between those two as well. Yeah.
Yes, one of them is about a strong woman that wants to be dominated.
And the other's Nosferatu.
And the other is
the other's Baby Girl. I mean,
with one person sucking the blood out of the. Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, a lot of great movies out this Christmas. Hope you are able to choose one that is to your family's liking. I don't know. Just for the record, I don't know that this movie is going to do that well. But I do think this will age really, really well. Like I think this movie is going to age like The Witch, another movie that aged really well. That is a movie that has like only grown in relevance as time has gone on. I think this is going to be one of those films as well, and people will not even remember what the box office was over time. Northman, in my opinion, not a movie that's aged very well. Like I don't think
I agree.
I don't think people are like discovering that and like
it's a wild movie, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's by far my least favorite of his.
It's the most straightforward. Like I'm doing a Viking thing, action movie.
I think that's right. I think that's right.
I will say I hope people end up actually seeing this in theaters, because I cannot imagine capturing the majesty of this movie in your home, even if you have like a 65-inch or 77-inch TV. Like you gotta to be in front of these these tapestries that he's painting. There's a shot of just like the village and like the castle in the background, or like the house that the count eventually buys, and it's just like there's so much detail. There's so much to watch. I hope you see it on the biggest screen if you can. Basically.
All right. At the end of the day, it is really impressive that Robert Eggers directed a movie. thank you so much for watching this video of the Filmcast. Check out these other videos that we have available, and be sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to get other videos from us in the future.
You can also go to thefilmcast.com to catch all of our audio podcast versions of all of our episodes.
And support this podcast at patreon.com/filmpodcast, where you can sign up for ad-free episodes and exclusive After Darks.
Thanks so much to everyone who makes the Filmcast possible.